Today, on Potential Prospect, we will be looking into the Fighting Nerd's top prospect, and seemingly the captain of the gym, Caio Borralho. It goes without saying that Caio is a prospect, and he is a problem in the middleweight division, but we still have questions, and a lot of people aren't aware of the nitty-gritty when it comes to him, and that is what this video will go over. Caio Borralho is 31 years old and stands at 6 feet 2 inches tall. He was born and raised in São Luís, Brazil, a beautiful place also known as the Island of Love, and is known for its bars and pubs that host live reggae nights, gaining the nickname the capital of reggae. Borralho is a very intelligent man, taking inspiration from his grandfather, who was a teacher, leading a 15-year-old Caio to become a tutor in math and chemistry. Once he graduated from high school, he would go off to UFMA and study industrial chemistry. He was eventually offered an internship at a popular Brazilian brewery called Giant Ambev. During all of this, Caio would train multiple martial arts, starting in judo. He would win multiple championships in judo at the state and national levels. He would eventually lose to an opponent getting caught in an arm lock. This would make him move into jiu-jitsu to work on his submissions and enrich his judo skills. Teammates would inspire Borralho to try out Muay Thai, and he would naturally want to combine his respected disciplines and try them out in the growing sport of MMA. In 2014, a 21-year-old Borralho would make his amateur debut and beat his opponent in impressive fashion, winning by TKO just 2 minutes into the first round. After achieving his first victory in MMA, he would transition to a professional fight. In December of 2014, he would make the walk in his very first fight. He was matched up with Clayton Rafael. Borralho would once again show up and show out in spectacular fashion, knocking Rafael out cold in the first minute of the fight. The crowd and coaches went crazy, so Borralho took a few months off to recover from his previous training camp. He would fight again 4 months later in July of 2015, going up against João Carvalho. Carvalho was an undefeated 4-0 fighter, and this would be a big test for Borralho. It turned out to be a tough fight, and he would fall short of beating Carvalho. This was rough, but Borralho felt a sense of relief knowing he didn't have to protect his undefeated record, as well as not chasing the finish. He would fight again in September of 2016, stepping up to face Edson Jr. Borralho would showcase his improved fight IQ and his grappling by choking out Edson in the third round. He would take another year off and fight again in September of 2017, this time fighting Luis Carlos Alves. He would end up being no match for Borralho because he would starch Alves just 20 seconds into the first round. Borralho had finally gotten some momentum, winning 2 fights in a row and finishing both opponents. He would take a few months off, fighting again in 2018, facing off with Raylander Marquez. This would not go as planned, because in the first round, the fight would get chalked down as a no contest. This was another bump in the road, but it also wasn't a loss, so he was still very confident in himself. Borralho would start to be much more active, having 4 fights in the next 15 months, finishing 3 of them. He ended up getting 2 submissions in the first round as well as a knockout in the first round. Borralho would take some time off to recover from his busy schedule, fighting again in October of 2020, going up against Wildemar Souza. This would be his 3rd fight to go the distance. Borralho was gaining hype and local fans at a crazy pace, and the UFC would hear whispers about this insane fighter on the regional scene. Once they took a gander at his record and how many first-round finishes he had, they had no other option than to give him a shot in the big leagues. But they weren't 100% sold on him yet. They would have him fight on a very popular show, Dana White's Contender Series. He would fight Aaron Jeffrey. Borralho would dominate Jeffrey, but his opponent was tough and hard to finish. However, Borralho would still get the unanimous decision win. This wasn't quite enough for the big man to sign him immediately, so Dana would have him fight again 3 weeks later. His opponent this time was Jesse Murray. Borralho was fired up and ready to make a statement to the red-faced head honcho. In just 1 minute into the first round, Borralho would land a few hard shots to the chops and force the ref to step in. This performance was more than enough to get him signed to the biggest promotion in the world, and in April of 2022 he would make his long-awaited UFC debut against Godsi Omargadzhiev. This would be a tough fight, but Borralho was still winning the exchanges, and just 3 minutes into the last round he would land an illegal knee, and the ref had the doctor step in to see if his opponent could continue, but Godsi did not want to, leaving it up to the judges to see if Borralho or his opponent would win the decision. And it turned out Borralho did more than enough to get the nod. After the blunder in his debut and his win streak still intact, Borralho would move forward, fighting again in July of that same year, this time fighting Armen Petrosyan. This would be a tough fight, but not tough enough to beat Borralho, because he would still end up getting yet another unanimous decision win. He was on a good roll in the UFC, so they would match him up with another pretty good fighter, Mahmoud Muradov, in October of 2022. This was another fight that wasn't a walk in the park, but Borralho was still dominating his opponent, beating him by unanimous decision once again. Borralho was gaining momentum and building a fan base faster than most. Winning his first 3 fights in less than a year, he would get a jump up in competition, and in April of 2023, he would be fighting a Polish fan favorite that has been gaining fans of his own, Michael Oleksiejczuk. This was a very tough fight, but Borralho would showcase his fight IQ as well as his well-rounded skill set by beating Michael in the first round and sinking in a very tight rear naked choke just 2 minutes into the second round. Borralho was ecstatic after getting his first official finish in the promotion, and he would be chomping at the bit to get another fight. Just a few months later, he would get that shot against a fighter with a ton of potential, Abus Magomedov. This would be a very tough fight. Abus is a very good fighter on the feet and is a real danger to try to outstrike due to his Muay Thai style. But Borralho was much more well-rounded in his game, and this fight would show that. He would eventually get Abus against the cage and down on the ground time and time again, leading to a very dominant unanimous decision win for Borralho. He was gaining fans all around the world, but we still hadn't seen him do much striking. Sure, he has good technique and good defense, but how would he fare against a guy who was better at grappling? Needless to say, there were many questions the fans still had, and in May of this year, he would get a matchup that would answer that question, this matchup being Paul Craig. Borralho would go into the fight extremely confident, and he also had a lot of expectations, and Borralho would meet those expectations with flying colors by knocking Paul Craig out cold in the second round only 2 minutes in. And this brings us to this weekend. Caio Borralho is set to face by far his toughest matchup to date, the Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier. This is an insane matchup that will answer even more questions we have. Those questions being, how good is his chin? How will he deal with a much more experienced fighter who is also very hard to finish? And will we find out how good Borralho's striking really is? Caio Borralho has a record of 16 wins with only 1 loss and 1 no contest. He has 5 knockout wins, 4 submission wins, and 7 decision wins, with his only loss being by way of decision. And remember, that was only his second professional fight. He is currently 6-0 in the UFC with 2 finishes. Overall, I'm leaning toward Borralho to get the win over Jared, because he has a much better fight IQ as well as a better grappling. Therefore, Borralho has more ways to win, whether it be by decision or submission. I do think Jared's only real path to victory is to land clean, hard shots early on in the fight, as well as mixing in the body shots with the head shots, and try to drain the gas tank of Borralho. I'm very excited for this fight, and if you've seen Borralho fight, you probably are as well. If you think, comment below who you think is going to win this fight. And also, I'm curious to see where you think Borralho's ceiling at. Do you think he's a top 10 fighter, a top 5 fighter, or do you think he'll be exposed and get out of the rankings? If you've watched the video this far, be sure to like and subscribe, as it is the only way to support the channel. I hope you guys have a great week and enjoy the fights this weekend. Bye.